Hi, I'm Alan, and this is Prayers to the Dice Gods, and we're back on the Orc Diaries. We are having another attempt to see whether or not we can make a reasonably good-looking model using contrast paints. So, like last time, we're going to start with the Xenothel Highlight, and we're going to use a much darker grey this time than we did last time, but we're going to start with a Wraithbone undercoat, and then we're going to hit it from underneath with the Xenothel, and then we're going to do something interesting. Over the top with muscles and fabric, anywhere on the model that's facing up, we're actually going to go over that with some Gracia with a brush, and then on top of that, just to pick out some really nice highlights, we're also going to go over with some plain white. Now, my thinking here is that we'll get a nicer Xenothel, as well as the muscles begin to look like they're taking more light along with the rest of the model. Let's see how that turns out. Now for this one, because I didn't like the Warp Lightning as a colour, as the flesh tone, I've gone back to the orc flesh, and we're going to be quite careful with this. We're going to make sure that we try and draw that brush down so that we don't get any pooling across the top bits that we want to be lighter. We want that to go more into where it's darkly shaded. Now this is a step I won't be repeating. I went around all of those upward facing areas on the flesh that I'd done the Gracia and white on and went over them with the yellow contrast paint. Now I did this a couple of times to build that up because, as you know, contrast paint is actually quite transparent at the first coat. The more you put on, the darker it gets. So we went around and I just kept putting that yellow on, and yeah, I'm not doing that again. It does not work the same way as if I was highlighting this with standard acrylic paint. So for the next time, we're not using this phase. Of course, the next thing we're doing is the red fabric for his top. I'm really excited to see how this was going to look, because with that dark grey down the bottom, it really changed the way that fabric looked, and it's starting to look more like an actual fabric with light shining on it. If you like the video, don't forget to click on the like button before the orcs find it and destroy it. So next we're on to the brown. Now, as you know from the other videos, I really liked the way the brown contrast paint goes on, but with this dark grey Xenothel, I must say it makes a huge difference. That Gracia and white on the top makes that leather really pop. I'm really liking the way this is looking, and of course I'm going to do the boots the same way as before because I absolutely love the way that came out, and I really can't thank Coach Coco enough for that suggestion of going over that brown with the Basilicanum grey. It looks absolutely amazing. So of course next we're going to go over all those areas that we want to look metallic, so that includes anything that we want to be gold. So we're going to go over the gun, the axe, you know, all of those bits. Now this time I've remembered to thin down the Basilicanum grey before I put that over those silver parts. And I'm really glad I did, because it gives a much better effect than Known Oil does. I think that's what I'm going to switch up to from now on. I'm not going to bother with Known Oil anymore. I'm just going to use Basilicanum grey. I'm going to thin it down because it does such a fantastic job of getting into those recesses and tinting the silver. So just picking out some areas with red panels. We're using the Flesh Terror's red here. We're going to stick that on, and the model's pretty much done. We've done his face with the Guilliman's flesh for his ears, nose and lip as normal. We've done the same coats over those teeth and any other bone section that we think needs it. It's all looking pretty good. There's a few things here I won't be doing again, so things like the flesh. I really liked the way it was before I started putting the yellow on. I mistakenly thought I could make that look better, and it went horribly wrong. So we're not going to do that next time. We're going to leave it as it is. So we're going to use that Gracia and that pure white. It really gave the top of those muscles quite a nice kind of bright definition there without changing the tone of the green too much towards white or yellow. So I really quite enjoy the way that looks. The Basilicanum grey, I'm definitely just going to keep using that as it is. I'm going to thin it down. Now, if you have any extra hints or tips that we can try out with these orcs before we do the next one, please leave a comment below so that we can have a quick chat about that and then add that in and see whether or not we like that before we commit to painting our entire orc army in contrast paint.